All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Happy Hour. You know, I'm your host, Chris Wright, and today, as I explained in our promo, that I'm going to be talking a lot today about the not only multiple offers. There's so many agents that talk about multiple offers and how to navigate them and things like that. I really wanted to focus on the emotional impact on the actual buyers and the buyers industry. It is a seller's market. I've only been in the industry since the end of 2013, so just like on 11 years. So I haven't seen it this bad for buyers since I've been in the industry. I know some of you that have been in longer probably have, but it's really taken a hit on a lot of buyers and the community's emotions. But it also takes a hit on real estate's emotions too. And I saw a post from one of my fellow colleagues, Mr. Brad Lostrip, on Facebook the other day, and I was like, "Wow, I feel the same exact way about the way things are going." So I wanted to talk about it and also kind of talk to the public as well, just to let you guys know that, we're not just agents out here trying to make as much money as we possibly can. We do care about your well being, your welfare. We want you to win. Anytime we get 15, 16 multiple offers, we don't always look at the one person that won, but we look at the other 15 that lost. So it is, sort of a emotional roller coaster. So on the other side, we're going to talk to, me and Brad, we're going to have a discussion, and I hope you guys can comment and join in. I look forward to seeing you guys all. Thanks. This is the Real Estate Happy Hour, and I'm your host, Chris Wright. It's a fun place where we talk real estate, pop culture, and what's trending. Hey, I might even give you some good advice, so grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and take a listen. Unless you're driving, of course. I'll see you guys on the other side. How was that, Brad? How was that introduction, man?
Oh, that was great. I thought that was a perfect synopsis.
It is. It is. I mean, it's a roller coaster, man. And, we have to endure this competitive real estate market. We're going to dive into the hearts and minds a little bit of the buyers as they navigate through stress and excitement at the same time. A lot of disappointment. And it's just very, very competitive. And, whether you guys are a first time home buyer or this is your second or third home, it's the same for everybody. I know people who are buying their third and fourth home and they're dealing with it just as well. So don't feel like I'm a first time home buyer and it's just hard for you. It's people also looking to upsize. Sometimes people looking to downsize and they're all going through the same type of nightmare. And it's not fun. So, Brad, you are the one you were the catalyst for this. And you posted on Facebook, and since it was on Facebook and social media, I think you wanted to let people know how you felt. So I'm going to share that with our public and kind of give them an idea. So you said, I'm so jaded by the real estate market right now. It absolutely breaks my heart to see good people who are well qualified get boxed out of the market because there are 49 offers in on one property. The winning offer is more oftentimes than not a cash offer or a conventional offer with a hefty down payment and an appraisal gap. Not everyone has the Scrooge McDuck swimming pool filled with gold coins to dive in. And I'm not saying that the people who are winning the offers don't deserve a house, but I am saying that there's a vital inventory problem in the marketplace and something needs to change. I'm tired of programs that have been set up to help people and, level, what do you say, level the playing field, come back to bite them in the ass and make their offer less advantageous, having the people who need to help the most jump through more hoops in order to get an unequal opportunity. Something is going on in the market right now. Inflation and interest rates are easy scapegoats, but there is something fundamentally flawed with our government and the programs they've set up. The game is rigged so that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. There's no place to go, so people are forced into renting and building equity for someone else's real estate portfolio. You should be able to invest, but there should also be equal opportunity for someone to secure a place to call home where they can live with their family and feel safe and secure. That's your sentiment?
That is, yeah, and, yeah, it's no secret we're in a seller's market right now, and I think this is the longest seller's market we've had in quite some time.
Right.
I know that started in 2020 when everything got shut down through the pandemic,
Hmm.
and I remember, you're probably right there with me at some showings, where it was one person in at a time, and they weren't allowed to be with their buyer clients, and,
Yep.
um, it just created quite the frustration for everyone.
100%. 100%. And so I want to talk about something that was in your Facebook post. Have you thought of any ideas what government can do, what we can do, I don't know, as a society to help this situation?
That's a good question. I think that one of the big things is always talking about it. So that's the first step in any solution is
Mhm.
to figure out what's going on
Right.
before we can figure out a solution for it. It's a complicated issue, and that's why I can't really put ownership and blame on the ones that are in power because it is a multifaceted problem
Right.
that there's not a clear solution that just jumps out
Mhm.
to how do we solve this thing.
Right. Right. Because as I was reading your post, I was thinking, oh, well, maybe he has a solution. And sometimes we don't. And I get it was emotional, it was passionate, and it was spur of the moment, right? It's not something that you really thought out, but it did. I think it resonated with a lot of how we're feeling. So, we both, this is more of a discussion than a Q and A, so I may ask some things in form of a question. But how do you think multiple offers change the buyer strategy in the home buying process? What's going on to change what, say, back in 2014 to now? What's the buyer? How's the buyer process change?
I think that what's going on, and I stated some of my frustration in there, where the government has created certain programs to kind of level the playing field. That at least they're supposed to.
Hmm.
I know you're a veteran, and that's one of the things that they have is a VA loan, and
Yeah,
you'll see a lot of those loans in this marketplace. Once you get into multiple offers, kind of just disregarded, and
yeah,
some of that's because of appraisals. And I think it's just sad that these are people who have served our country and put their life on the line, and so that we have a place to call home and they're not able to secure a place to call home themselves.
I always
In
say,
the
people say
fought
thank you,
for.
thank you for your service, but I'm not giving you my home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? That's
Yeah.
funny, not funny, as I say. Thank you for your
Exactly. Yeah, and I've run into the same kind of thing too with, first-time homebuyer
Mhm.
grants, or city grants that are
Yeah.
available. It's supposed to be there to create a level playing field
Mhm.
for people who might not have the cash just to put right down on a purchase. They've got their, some cases, down payment, and closing costs all set, and then, they just don't have the cash to compete. So, where some of these programs come alongside to try to help out and supplement,
Yeah.
they end up not being able to do what they were created to do
Right.
just because the market is so competitive.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it is complex because there are a lot of first-time home buyers out there that say, "Hey, are there any programs that can help me buy my first home?" We say yes, but it's almost like saying yes, but no one's going to accept your offer. You know,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
they're stuck with these multiple offers, and they got their pre-approval in hand, they got their grant approved, and no one will. There's a lot of deals that go, and agents may say, "Oh, if it's with a grant, my seller's not going to accept that." So it's unfortunate, but I think that as buyers agents, we just have to make sure that we have relationships with other agents. That's hugely important. I talked to a few agents, and I said, when you get into these situations, sometimes even if we can tell the seller, I know Chris. He's been doing this a long time. He knows what he's doing. He's well versed in that grant program. He's a veteran himself. He knows a lot about the VA loans program, whatever. Sometimes you just gotta, you may have to make that seller feel very confident with whatever program that's being pitched. Of course, the listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to that seller, but I think with more explanation to them, it might go over, better. Um, what do you think? Because the buyers are so emotional, what are some of the mistakes they might make that you've seen?
Yeah, I think it's kind of natural tendency for a buyer to wanna get a deal on a property,
Mhm.
And so I see some people not coming out as competitive as they could be,
Mm,
thinking, I've really tried to train my buyers to say, would I be okay if I lost out on this property for X amount of dollars?
right.
And that's what is going to guide them in making their decision.
Mhm.
And then I also think too, because it is such a tough market, prefacing those buyers of, hey, this is what we're going into. It's not going to be easy. I'm right here with you, and just as we get shot down, I'm going to get shot down right with you. So we're going to work together and keep on going. I know that's a big thing that's happened a lot too. It's very easy to get imposter syndrome as an agent and say, oh, what am I doing wrong? How am I not counseling my client in the right way?
Right.
But I think that also is spreading to the buyer as well. And the buyer saying, what haven't I done? I've worked so hard to save up this money, and be able to get into a house. And
Right.
I think that continually have that rejection really makes a buyer say, can I do this? Is it possible to purchase a home in this market?
Yeah, and you're right. It's really challenging. I mean, I like the whole imposter syndrome example because you start to feel bad. Like, what am I not doing to help these buyers get this home? But at the same time, you can't let them get discouraged. But as you know, as agents, sometimes we can get discouraged too. And as quickly as our buyer may be running out of steam, we may be running out of steam for that person. So let me ask you a question. Something I do is I try to temper their expectations about what they can buy. I have told buyers sometimes, maybe not looking at a house in the first 7 days it's on the market. Let's wait to see if it cools a little bit. Then they say, oh, then we'll miss out. But I'm like, if it's going to be competitive in the first 24 to 48 hours, you probably won't win anyway, as you can see. So if you wait, I don't know what your time limit is, but if I say maybe if you wait 5 or 6 days, 5 days, and you say, wow, that thing's still on the market, and you call the agent and go, hey, Brad, you got any offers on that? You'd be like, no, I'm still waiting. I'll tell my buyer, hey, this is your house, right? It's waiting for you right now to come and make an offer on that house. So they may get in the house, and now I may have to tamper their expectations on a little bit on condition, maybe room size, like all of the things that they wanted that might have been on their bucket list. I may have to say, you know what, but you can always sell it later. For now, this is not your forever home. Let's compromise a little bit, right? Does that make sense? You do something similar?
Yeah, that's really a good rule of thumb, especially with the competitiveness. If you've got a certain type of financing that isn't going to be as competitive,
Yeah.
I think you're right. Kind of taking a look back and saying, if this property is still on the market, 7, 10 days, something like that, let's go in there, have a conversation with that listing agent before we go in there.
Hmm.
And I think that's another good kind of tool to utilize as well, is
Right.
really reaching out to the listing agents and gauging kind of the activity and what's going on there.
I talked to an agent yesterday. So the house has been on the market for 2 days. So it's Thursday now. So that means she put it on the market, let's say Tuesday or Monday night or something like that. So I called her up and I said, hey, is this house, no, do you have any offers? She says, no, not yet. I said, are you doing an open house this weekend? She said, I hope I don't have to because I expected to have a lot of offers by now. So that I'm only saying that to say that listing agents are even expecting it, that to have multiple offers in the first 24 to 48 hours. I think when I sent her an offer on this house, I believe that as of last night, I was the only offer. So that gives my buyers a good opportunity because they are at FHA loan. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they can win. But no, I just pointed that out because everyone's expecting the same thing. Mentally preparing. I think I've always been in the habit of doing buyers consultations before going out and looking at houses. I'm not sure if you do that but I think that you should do buyers consultation. It's even more important now with not only the NAR settlement, but just
Mhm.
explaining the market. Like, here's what we're going to face. You know, anytime you go with a tour guide somewhere, they'll tell you what's coming up. When we get up about 50 feet, we're going to take a left turn. There's going to be a big giant rock. Whatever. Same thing in this industry. I think that we have to prepare people for what's going to take place. Tell them what their loan vehicles like, how FHA loans are being handled, how VA loans are being handled. how buyers look at, how sellers look at them. At the same time, tell them we may go through some multiple offer scenarios. You may lose a lot. That way, the expectation is there. So anytime they put in the offer and you have to call them up and they go, "Yeah, we didn't win that one, but let's keep plugging," they're not as disappointed. You can
Absolutely, yeah, I can see how the buyer's consultation is really important for that, and, also just to be prepared. I know you're probably in the same boat, it's like we need our pre-approval before we go and put in an offer or even show you a property.
right.
But I think too, also to talk with the buyer and, allow them to understand how the contract works and what contingencies there are to play with.
Yeah,
I know sometimes that can be a make or break decision too.
right,
How much are you putting down as a deposit? How much are you putting down on your loan? Are you elevating your inspection thresholds? I know a lot of people are familiar with escalation clauses now too, and you're starting to see those come into play in these multiple situations too.
right, right. Can you do you have an example for the public of a really good multiple offer story, like where you won and you were like, "Oh shit, we won."
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I have some crazy stuff just to kind of temper the market where we didn't get the offer.
Mhm.
There was a townhouse in Clifton Park
Yeah.
that had 23 offers in on it, and I've I felt bad for that listing agent as well because that listing agent went and had to call 22 different buyers agents and say, "Hey, you didn't get the offer,"
Yeah.
23 times, and that's got to take a toll too on the opposite side as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough. Hey, have you had to do that yourself? Because I just had to do it with 16 people.
I haven't had anything that crazy. It's been usually just a couple that I've had to reach out to, and um, it's also working together with the other agent is really important as well.
Mhm.
Um, Providing respect when you're on the phone call in that very emotional state of what's going on too is really important. And like you said, building relationships with the other agents, because I think that's one thing that we're all starting to realize is we might be on the listing side at one point in time, but we're going to be on the other side with a buyer too. So we really need to be respectful of what's happening on both sides.
Right. And you know what's funny? I made those. Well, again, I always say funny. That's a bad word. But what was fortunate because I made those 16 calls. My seller selected the one he wanted to go with. Um, Contract signed, executed, both sides. Sent the contract into the attorneys. One of the buyers who missed the deadline said, "Do you mind if I go see it?" I said, "Yeah, we'll use it as backup."
Mhm.
Came back with an offer well over 20,000 more than the one we accepted. All cash, no inspections. I have to present it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would be malpractice if I didn't. And I want buyers out there to understand that is that it's not us, the real estate agent, saying we're trying to undercut your offer. It's malpractice. It's like a doctor not telling you about a medication that could possibly cure you, even though it has multiple side effects that may not favor you. They still got to tell you about it, right? They got to say,
Absolutely.
"Hey, I do have another option." Well, I had to do that. I have to call that seller and go, "Hey, I know we signed the contract yesterday, but I just got an offer in last night. I have to present it to you. We can stick with the one we got, or you're free to get this one. It's not through attorney approval." And of course, he was going to say, "Oh, 100%. I want that new offer." But don't,
Absolutely.
I mean, you feel bad for the buyer that won.
Absolutely. That one temporarily too.
Yeah.
And that's what I always say too. Don't celebrate too early. You're still
Right.
in attorney review. Anything can happen. And I've had situations where we've got an accepted offer, and this one situation, there was a relative of the seller that came out of the woodwork and was like, "Hey, I want to buy the house. I didn't know it was for sale."
Oh,
And they go and say, "Well, we're going to sell to our cousin Joe or whatever it is," and there's just nothing that you can do about it at that point.
right. How do you go about managing their emotions? I mean, the ones who go, "You know what, Brad, we're just tired. We're going to take a break. We're going to wait 6 months and see what the market does." How do you overcome that objection, or how do you make them feel better about staying in the game?
Yeah, well, sometimes too, it is good to take a break.
Mm.
It is a mentally tolling kind of climate out there, so I think that's part of self care.
Mhm.
And just as it's important not to lose stamina or not give up on your home search, if
Yeah.
you got to take a break for a week or whatever it is, sometimes that's important to do just so that when you come back in and you start going through and looking at houses again, you're really better prepared than you were the first time.
One of our viewers watching Leon, he said, "Are we seeing multiple offers up there in every price point?" I think so. I haven't seen a price point where we're not seeing. I'm talking $60,000 fixer uppers are, have 20, 30. Then when you get up to the 150 to 250s, those are nuts. And then 350 to 375, 400, they're all just, I haven't seen a price point except for $1 million, luxury, which I don't do luxury. I mean, I haven't been fortunate enough to do luxury, but those are the only ones I haven't seen in multiple offers. How about you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty consistent across the board. Same thing. I even remember when I first started, once you got up above the 500,000 point, you would start to see, oh, we got an offer.
Yeah.
And
About to tick up.
nowadays, you're still getting multiple offers in that higher price point.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just completely saturated across the board where there's low inventory and a lot of buyers that want to purchase.
Thanks, Leon, for that question. If you happen to be watching out there, you have a question about this, you just want to chime in. This is not really for real estate agents as much as it is for the general public. But if real estate agents are out there, we'd love your input with, if you want to comment or chat with us. Um, I did have I'm glad he chimed in, Leon. Thanks, because we have to be careful in our own relationships. I used to uh, worry about how's the agent going to feel when I make a decision, or people used to yell at listing agents because they had to pick a certain buyer. I think we're all in our community anyway. I think we're all really doing a good job with the multiple offers. Yes, we all communicate differently. And what I mean by that is some people like to call, some people like to text, some people, one person, not one person, but there's some people that may do a mass email and say, hey, sometimes it's just overwhelming. And I get it. I know they're not ducking and dodging. Maybe a newer agent may have some fear of making 16 phone calls and saying, "Hey, you didn't win it." I think a lot of agents text these days. If I text you and I say, "Hey, Brad, I'm sorry, we selected another offer," blah blah blah, and you respond to me, I think we're good. If you say, "Hey, no problem, Chris, we're good." If you don't respond, then I'm going to make the call. But sometimes it's just easier for me to make like a sample. What do you call them? Like a text form,
That was like
whatever.
a
Huh?
just like a template.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. So if I make a text template and I can just send it to 20 people saying, "Hey, we got a better offer." What I do is like copy and paste the darn thing, change the name, send it all out to everybody. And if I'll wait right away. If I start getting responses, no problem, dude. Good job. Thanks a lot. Da 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 da. Um, then I'm good. But if one or two, three agents don't respond to me, then I'll call them and go, "Hey, did you get my text? Just want to let you know that you didn't win." But I'm pointing this out to just say about the relationship that we have with each other. Make sure we're being respectful. Make sure we're being above board. Make sure that we're following all the ethical guidelines, and just telling the truth. I mean, I don't see a problem in our area with that. Um, Leon came back. He said here in Tampa, multiple offers are most prevalent in condos. You guys got a lot of HOAs there too, but we're seeing them more lately in the 350 to 450 range. But they're definitely the communication with each other. We just have to trust each other. I haven't seen a problem with that in our area yet. Um, and I mean, I think even if we do, it's best to call up that agent and have a conversation with them. That's the best way to kind of handle it. I can always tell some of the newer or greener agents um, just how they operate, and I'll call them up and hope, to lend some wisdom to them just based on my experience. Because you know this, Brad, you learn to communicate better the longer you're in the industry, right?
That's true, and, to touch on what you were saying too, method of communication makes a big difference too.
Huge.
Everybody's got a different personality style on the other end, so,
Mhm.
it's really hard to, kind of wait, how can I leverage my time and be effective in my communication versus also understanding we're in the customer service industry still, so, we don't wanna lose that sense of connection, either between our client that we're working with or between the agent on the other side too.
Here's something. Here's a question that was that's asked. It says, how do the buyer's expectations shift when they learn they're not the only interested party? Meaning, do you think buyers run away from multiple offers, or do you think they like ready to do they dive in? What's been your experience with that?
I have seen some people kind of have the elbow mentality of, well, I'm not going to give up. This is my house. I want it.
Okay.
I'm going to do whatever I have to do to win the house. In other situations,
Mhm.
I've seen just the opposite. It's
Right.
like, well, we're not even going to take a look at that. It's got 23 offers on it, and we just don't have a chance. So
But
I've
you know what?
seen both.
My retort to that is, hey, Brad, they all do. Like,
Mhm.
might as well jump in the pool because we're not going to find a pool that's going to make you comfortable. We might every time there's a listing that you're like, when it checks your boxes, I think we need to jump in somewhere. You know,
Absolutely.
um, one of my recent families, uh, they went into a multiple offer. The listing agent told me, "Hey, Chris, I'm so far. You were number 11." Like she ranked them. You were like 11 out of 13, and um, you really didn't have a shot compared to the ones we had. So the long story short on that is when the deal fell through within like 48 hours, she said, I asked, my seller doesn't want to put it back on the market. She wanted me to call all the agents that offered, and all of the ones before us had moved on.
Oh wow.
So had my people not jumped in that pool, they wouldn't have been on the list,
Absolutely.
right? So I say jump in every one. You just never know.
That's right. You never know.
She was like, I'm sorry, Chris, you were like 11th. I felt like this small.
Oh, no, and I actually think that's really good too as,
Mhm.
to speak again on the listing agents too.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference when you've got a listing agent that's
Mhm.
willing to share some of the information.
Uh,
It is up to the seller whether that's shared or not,
mhm.
but I've had some agents tell me, and they're like, "Listen, we had a cash offer. It was $65,000 over list. They waived inspections, and,
Yeah.
they're gonna name their kids after the sellers." Just a ridiculous offer you can't compete with. So, that definitely helps me and my relationship with my buyers too, where I can
Yeah.
talk to them and say, "We didn't have a chance. We gave it our best shot. We've got nothing to be, sad about. We put everything we had into it." So that really does help too.
You know, recently, and I'm not going to do it on this podcast because I don't want to name people, but I just had a great experience with an agent who the some of the offers were so ridiculous that the sellers even thought they were ridiculous. They
Mhm,
thought now our offer was well over list price, but it seemed to be a reasonable price over list price, where some of them were just so far above list price. Like,
mhm,
imagine if the house was 450, they were offering 550.
mhm.
Where we
Yeah,
came in at a decent number like 475, 480. They were like, that's a reasonable. So they chose ours because they felt, you know what, this is what they have, this is what they can afford. It makes a lot of sense. We're getting well more than we asked for, and we got picked, and we weren't even the highest offer. So people out there, you're not always gonna. It's not always price. Sometimes it takes a whole package in order to win, right? Everything has to be
absolutely.
right about that offer.
I had a situation just like that happen not too long ago, and
Yeah.
very well qualified buyers. We go in and we put an offer in $20,000 over list to waive inspections.
Mhm.
And the agent was like, that's a really great offer, but it's probably not going to get picked. I'll relay everything to the seller. But he said the same thing. It was some of these offers that are out there,
Yeah.
they just don't even make sense.
They don't make
And
sense.
yeah, and they're not gonna appraise either. That's the other big
Right.
thing too. It's like I can offer you $1,000,000 on a $300,000 property,
Mhm.
but you and I and everybody else knows it's never going to appraise for that.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So we talked about the disappointment, and yeah, I wanted to go back to where we started and talk a little bit about your post and think about some of the things, just a couple of items that we could do as an industry to soften this blow. I know that there are some people out there selling properties off market, and that's a great thing too. Off market listings, and long as it's above board, no one's breaking laws. You might meet some investors out there, builders who be like, I see a lot of sold before print. Anything that we could do just to get more inventory. Have you seen any situations out there that would help this situation?
I think that's a pretty good tactic actually, is
Hmm.
trying to go after properties that aren't on the market yet.
Yeah.
That way your buyer's not up against 5, 6, 7, however many other buyers at the same time.
Hmm.
It provides a little bit more of a level playing field if someone's got an FHA or VA, that they're trying to get accepted if they don't have to compete with somebody else that's cash or
Right.
conventional with a lot down.
Hmm.
Um, then it can be a smooth transaction, and you really don't have to worry about, that buyer being over leveraged either.
Right. And you know what's so funny for sell by owners?
Oh, yeah.
For sell by owners, you know what's so funny is that I think some of you still believe we're in 2020.
Mhm.
Where they're like coming up with these crazy prices. Oh, my neighbor's house sold last year for 100,000 over list price. So they will try and come on the market and do the same thing. The only problem is you don't have any agents coming to your house. So, right? So,
That's right.
I
Absolutely.
I am advocating for sell by owners to get yourself a listing agent, learn the proper way to list that house. If you were looking to get 50,000 over list, it's probably best to put it in a real estate agent's hand so we can price
Mhm.
it accordingly and get you 50,000 over list. But I do. One happened recently near me. They priced it very high, and they didn't get any bites. And as soon as they hired a real estate agent, which unfortunately wasn't me though, had an open house and it sold at the open house pretty much same day and well over list price. But no one,
Absolutely.
right? It,
Yeah.
it works. It works. So, but no, I think for sale by owners, you just got to be careful. There is a strategy. There is a pricing strategy, comparative market analysis. A lot of things that go into it. Um, we just don't take 72 hours of licensing to. We know what we're
Absolutely.
talking about, right?
And pay our dues and everything else
And
too.
PRDs and everything. So,
Another thing too, that MLS is worth its weight in gold.
mhm,
It's better to have your house out there to all the buyers than just the people who are casually looking on Zillow.
yeah, yeah. Um, I want to go back to off market. So there are ways. So I know that some agents are doing some door knocking.
Mhm.
Agents are knocking on doors in neighborhoods that buyers want to be in. Guys, there's a possibility, for the public, it's a possibility. If you tell your agent, I really want to live in, ABC community, to find me a house there, give me a call. There are agents out there that will go knock on a few doors. Hey, I have a buyer ready to buy, well qualified. This is the situation. If you or any of your neighbors want to sell your house, here's my card. Let me know. It works. It works, Brad.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you see a garage sale and get talking to somebody and find out, oh, we're actually trying to get rid of some things so we can downsize or get ready so the move's a lot easier. It's another great thing to look out for as well.
Or even if you see someone fixing up their house,
Mhm.
you happen to see them on the outside, maybe replacing some siding, maybe painting the exterior, replacing a door. Like, hey, how you doing? I'm so and so. What's going on? Oh, we're looking to sell our house in about a year. We're just getting our stuff together. Hey, what if we could sell it today? you know,
Absolutely.
you just never know. They'd be like, I never thought about that. You might be able to talk that neighbor or person into selling right away. But for people out there, I just want to let you know that don't hesitate to tell your agent that you're looking in a certain community. I need to stay in this school district. I know it's a very competitive market. So if you can find me something that's not on the MLS yet, let me know what you can do. And you might, you never know. It works out. Works out for everybody, actually.
It
Uh,
does.
so we talked about first-time homebuyers. The, what do you work with a lot of them, Brad? First-time homebuyers?
I do, and, so I'm 33, and a lot of my friends, a lot of people who I went to high school with, or went to college with, have reached out to me throughout my career, and I've had the opportunity to represent them,
Hmm.
which has been really great. But definitely first-time homebuyers are having a tough time right now. So,
Why?
I'm
Why is that?
I think a lot of it has to do with they just don't have the cash to put down as someone who has equity from a house already.
Uh-huh.
That's one thing. It's I know you had said about sometimes when you're a buyer and you're looking in this market that's really competitive,
Right.
sometimes you have to be willing to compromise on what you're looking for just to buy into the market. And
Mhm.
then once you're into the market and you go to sell, you're not a first time home buyer anymore. So
Right.
you might have paid more to get into the market, but you're going to maintain and realize that equity when you go to sell and get into another home. It's a more parallel kind of a transaction than
Yeah.
first time home buyers. You really just gotta wrestle to get all that money to get into a house.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, Another thing I want to impress upon people, it's happened recently, is our lending partners, our lenders. I think for first time home buyers, you really have to look at other options, meaning that different lenders have different loan types that they can offer. They have different packages. Some are good. Some some lenders may be able to get you a conventional, where
Mhm.
another lender may only be able to get you an FHA. Some lenders may have a VA program, but they also may have a conventional program that looks like a VA program. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Right? So you just never know
Yeah.
by calling different lenders. And I think you should also always listen to your real estate agent, but say, hey, who do you recommend that I talk to about getting a loan? Ask for a couple, because I realize sometimes that you may talk to two or three different lenders and they'd be like, oh, I didn't even know about that program. So I talked to a lender this morning actually, and I said, this guy had no credit score. How did you get him a pre-approval? He said, oh, we got a program for people with no credit score. That's right.
Wow.
Right. They didn't even know that. So that was very interesting. So make sure that is happening. So the next group of people I want to talk about is people who are trying to sell their home. Man, so they want to sell their home, but they can't find something to move in. How are you navigating that piece? Because now they put them, like, they voluntarily put themselves into a pool. How's that working for you? What are you doing?
Yeah, so that's a little different. I know when I first started too, it wasn't uncommon to see 48-hour offers
Yeah.
put in on a property,
Mhm.
and, I think it's a little combination of you still got an upper hand because 'cause you've got a property to sell, so the chances that your property will be under contract quickly
Mhm.
is pretty high, but a lot of people are still hesitant to accept a 48-hour, when they're up against a cash offer, someone that doesn't have that contingency. So I've had other clients that we put their house on the market and pretty much before we found a house that they wanted to go to, and we'll put a restriction on that and say the sale of this property is contingent on the sellers finding the home of their choice. So they're not homeless, but they've still got an opportunity to get their house sold and put an offer in that's uncontingent.
So I have a question for you, and this is just an idea.
Yeah,
This is an idea.
yeah.
This is a rhetorical question. How
Mhm.
many real estate agents do we know that own Airbnbs?
Mm.
Right. So I'm
Absolutely.
gonna reach out to my Airbnb agents and say, hey, can you put my client up for 3 months? Because I'm gonna
That's a
always
good idea.
recommend you sell your home, you close on it, let's find you some temporary living, and then you start looking for a house. That way you won't have the 48
Absolutely.
hour contingency. So I'm gonna hit
That's
up
right.
Airbnb people first. I mean, depending on the season, I know summer's a little tough, but if we're in the fall or winter or spring months, we may have some. We're supposed to say short term rental, not give
Mhm.
Airbnb a plug, but we look for some of our short term rental, or even some of our agents that have a lot of rental units. They may have some vacancies and be like, hey, can you put my family up for until we find a home? We have the relationships
Absolutely.
that they might say yes. You know,
That's a really good idea, and it's pretty innovative too, and it's also a win-win as well.
innovative.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna say too, back to, the mortgage consultants, I had one mortgage consultant that, pretty much suggested my client getting a line of, home equity so that they could purchase without it having being contingent. Then they've got time to go and spruce up their house to be perfect for the market, and they're gonna get the best price on that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's almost
yeah,
like
so I
bridge.
I
It's almost
agree,
like
I think
bridge, right?
yeah, lean on your lender too. I'd say it's just as important as your agent as well. I know in the competitive market, there's some agents that will make phone calls to the listing agent. That's gonna stick out too if your lender's willing to take the time to do that and make your offer stick out.
Yeah. And I think the public knows that we are in a really high impact sellers market. So 48-hour contingencies aren't horrible, but it's still risky compared to people that don't have to sell their homes. But I would say for the most part, I remember the last time I did a 48-hour contingency, and for the public, just so you don't know, that means that a customer, a buyer can put an offer in on a listing, but they have to sell their house prior to committing to the new purchase. And then if another offer come in on the same house, they have 48 hours to determine whether they're going to honor the contract or let it go. If I
Mhm.
didn't explain it, give me a call. We'll explain it further. Or call Brad. He knows how to explain it as well. Anyway, what was I saying? So what I was saying is that, um, what was I saying? I was going somewhere with this, Brad.
We were talking about first time home buyers, and then we went to people who are selling their
Right,
houses.
right. Well, oh, that's what I was thinking about. The fact that it's a high impact sellers market, 48-hour contingencies aren't that risky. They're
Mhm.
risky, but not as risky as they used to be. Like typically, I had a listing agent said, "Hey, Chris, we're going to accept your 48-hour contingency, but send me the listing of their
Sure.
house. Let me see what the condition is. Let me see what the price point is." Then I'll look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that's going to go fast. I'm not worried." So as soon as it goes on the market, boom, we know it's under contract, and we're going to be comfortable. Then the risk becomes that too many deals don't fall through. Right now,
Absolutely.
the buyer that does the 40-hour contingency, they have to be ready to accept the risk of waiving that 48-hour contingency, because now they could be stuck liable for two mortgages, and that has happened, right?
Absolutely.
Because if
Yep.
their house falls through, their deal falls through, and they've moved forward on the new house, they may have a crossover, you know, a overlap of mortgage.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, but you know what? Some people do take that risk. I mean, they
Mhm.
depending on how much their mortgage is, that could get pretty pricey. So yeah, so we were just thinking about ways to kind of soften that blow of the inventory. So we talked about temporary rentals, possibly. We talked about people selling their home. Yeah. So do you agree with what I'm saying about selling your house prior to trying to buy a house because of
I do. Yeah,
okay,
I think that's a great strategy, and I did really like the incorporation of Airbnbs in there.
yeah,
Everyone likes to hate on Airbnbs, but they have their purpose, and
they
they've got their place in our ecosystem
they
too.
do, and I think that's a good place for it because there's so many people who are complaining right now that, um, and that's because the market is flooded with short-term rentals. That some people aren't getting the return on the investment that they thought. So maybe if they can use it as bridge living, a bridge apartment. I know some companies out there that are making a really good amount of money on bridge living because they can overcharge rent. Like what would normally
Mhm.
be a $1,500 a month rent, they can charge 2,200 a month because it's short term.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
Price for convenience.
right for convenience.
Mhm.
Um, what about buyers who you they jump into this pool? It just may not be a good time for them to buy. I mean, what's that conversation look like for you?
I think it's really just assessing what they're looking for, and if
Mhm.
if that's in the realm of reality. If it's not in the realm of reality, sometimes it is better to wait.
Yeah,
I know that's something that I don't always say. Like every time is a good time to buy a house.
right,
Every time is not a good time to buy a house, and it really depends on the buyer and what situation they're in.
right.
Um, so if their credit score is not where they need it to be to afford the kind of house they're looking for,
Mm.
or if something else is going on, I think it's important to have that conversation and say, hey, let's take a little break, let's step back, we'll work on this on the back end, and so when we go back to it, we'll be ready and prepared.
You have to really have a good relationship with that client in order for them to honor that. Because
Absolutely.
if you don't, like if they're an online lead or something like that, they'd be like,
Mhm.
"Screw that guy, he just got tired of us," right? And they'll go look for them another agent. So yeah, that's a touch and go type situation because they have buyer's fatigue. They're a little depressed. They're emotional. So sometimes taking a step back because it all has to do with price point. We know finding $150,000 house today is very difficult. And if you're $150,000 house and you have an FHA loan, they don't they're not doing very well with fixer uppers right now. If you have to get a FHA 203K, then the
Mhm.
parameters of that changes with down payment. It's just so many things that go into it that that whole $150,000 price point is kind of tough. I mean, you agree with
Yeah, and I liked what you were saying before about our fiduciary responsibility towards our client,
that? Hmm.
and, that's one of them is that where we've got our client's best interest too, so, if it's not working for them, that's what we need to be the most sensitive to,
Yeah,
rather than are we getting what we want as an agent, it's really, is my buyer getting what they want, and is it really benefiting them at the end of the day?
right, right. And I'm sure you're doing the same thing because it's our responsibility to do this. A lot of buyers want to jump into the pool and go, I'll waive inspections, and we just,
Mm,
yeah, I think we have to do right by them and tell them, as an agent, I highly recommend that you don't waive inspections, but if you do, you need to sign knowing what you're doing, right?
mhm,
That type of situation, because you never want them to say that you told me to. That comes back to
absolutely.
bite you in the ass like 2 years later.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, and I know, I've seen a lot of agents play around with that inspection threshold too, and, that's another way to and, it's tough. It's tough to say, we're not the home inspector, so when we go through a house and they say, "Well, what should I put the inspection threshold at?" I can't tell them what to do that at, and, it's really not in our ballpark to do that.
Well,
It's what you feel comfortable with.
well, the seasoned agents, the listing agents, have asked the proper way, which is, "Hey, will you increase your threshold?" They don't
Yeah.
give you a number. And then I guess we turn around and go, and by the way, I'm sorry. Sometimes we talk like it's just you and I in the room. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
we have to explain to the general public what we mean. So when you are doing when you buy a house, you can do inspections on your home, structural inspections on your home. New York State, it used to be a contract of any one item over $1,500 was considered a major defect, and that would be you have the right to basically renegotiate that or cancel the contract. And then I noticed on the new contracts, it's moved up to 2,000. Then there's a blank line if you want to put a number in there. So what that means is 1,500 was always low because it's been 1,500 since I was in the industry, and with inflation, that's probably worth about $700 now, right? Like
Right.
anything can be 1,500. An electric panel, you
Mhm.
know, removing asbestos or taping asbestos in a basement. There's not many contractors that come out to the house for less than 1,500, right? So,
Absolutely.
so that threshold was moved up to $2,000. Any one item in the house that's defective, that's going to cost you $2,000 or more, um, is another thing. You can renegotiate the contract or renegotiate the repairs, or cancel the contract if you can't work it out. Um, so when someone says, "Can you increase that threshold?" What they're asking is, can you move that up from 2,000 to 3,000 or 4,000 or even 5,000? I've seen $10,000 thresholds. The only thing that's going to be $10,000 pretty much is three things: a septic, a foundation, or a roof.
That's right.
Right. So
Yep.
hardly anything else in that house is going to hit that number. I mean, if you think of anything out there, agents, let us know. But I know those are the only three things I've seen. Um, so, what should we tell the public about handling the anxiety period, the waiting for the seller's response? Like I'm waiting for one right now, but I'm used to it. So, but two people are kind of concerned. The agents concerned out there, the buyers agents, and then the customers. I think it's more important to get your customers under control. Like when we're going to hear something, we're going to hear something.
Mhm.
So, what's your strategy for that?
That's really tough. I mean, I've tried to switch my kind of tactics on that.
Mhm.
When I first started in the industry, it was common to say my offer expires by this time, this date. We're looking for an answer by then, and if we don't hear one, we'll retract our offer. We don't see that as often anymore,
You bite
and
the
I
dust.
know you've probably seen a lot of yeah. The offers will be signed after they're expired, and the attorneys will take care of it under their attorney approval letter, and everything's fine. And it's tough. It's tough to wait.
And you want to
I
get
don't
that
know what your
attorney approval as
experience has
quickly
been.
as possible,
Yeah,
right? Um,
absolutely.
I was thinking about that, but when again, it's part of that buyer's consultation, but of course we're
Mhm.
communicating with our buyers over and over again. So I think it's important that we tell them, I'm going to put your offer in today. Make sure you sign it and get it back to me as soon as possible so I can get
Mhm.
it to the listing agent. Listing agent gets it. I go, hey, what are the expectations? When should we hear an answer? They may say, now here, as listing agents, I think we make the mistake of saying best and final by
Mm.
Monday at 8, and you'll hear something by Tuesday. Don't say that unless your seller tells you that's when they're going to make a decision. Because what if you turn in all the offers to the seller and the seller goes, let me speak to grandma and we want to go over this for a couple of days,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I had one, recently, and we were supposed to hear by Tuesday at 7, if we got the offer or not, and, of course, I got a text message right away, like, "What's the word? Did we get it?" And, I have to tell them, "Well, there's no answer yet, they're still deciding."
Right.
But it was between 2 offers, my client's offer and someone else's, so, we made the first preliminary round, and then we had to wait again.
So yeah, if it's an estate, right? If it could be a lot of brothers and sisters involved in the process. Hey, here's all the offers. We got a mill over it. Johnny's on vacation in Florida. He'll be back Thursday. We'll discuss it when he comes in. Like there's
Mhm.
just so many variables that can make a multiple offer sit for a while. And I just think it's important that we communicate to all the buyers agents what's going on. Now, I know there's a lot of buyers out there. We just tell them, you know what? Let's keep looking. Let's pretend that offer's out there. Well, can we make offers on other properties? Like, heck yeah! In this market, in old
Yep.
markets, I probably wouldn't always say that. Like let's wait till we get this. But I'll tell them like, listen, we got to keep playing. And there's some agents out there who may want to kill me for saying that, but buyers don't have a lot of time. I know buyers that have to be out of their house by the end of a certain month, and if they're waiting for a multiple offer decision to come back, right? They may
Yeah, and you
their
can't you
time.
can't sleep on the market because if you do, you're gonna lose it, and,
Yeah. So what? Yeah.
just as you were saying before, it's kinda like you wanna put your foot in the, uh in the door and try to do what you can even if you think you're not gonna win it,
Right.
because maybe that person that gets that accepted offer has another accepted offer on a different property they like better.
Hundred
They could
percent.
come right
Right.
back to you.
So if my buyer says to me, "Hey, Chris, what's the deal with the offer?" and I go, "You know what? I heard from the agent today. It's Thursday. He said we might not hear anything till Monday." They're gonna be like, "All right, well, I'm going to some open houses this weekend. I want to
Mhm.
see this, and this, and I want to keep my offer in.
Yep,
If we win, great. We love the house, but if we get another house that we love, we may have two offers out there. It works."
absolutely. Yeah,
So listen, I mean, I want to end because I always told you I like to keep a tight hour. Is there
sure.
anything that we didn't think of that we might want the public to know that you can think of?
I was actually just gonna touch on briefly too, everything that's going on with the NAR lawsuit. I know you brought that up,
Yeah.
and they didn't take away co-broks, which I think is a really good thing,
Mhm.
but it does provide a little bit of concern. And again, I don't have the answer to how to fix this problem,
Right.
but when we're talking about first-time home buyers, people with VA offers, FHA offers, it's really important for them to also have representation, and I think with the conversation of what's going on with buyer agent commissions,
Yeah.
um, we can really rationalize, what we're providing to the buyer in this market, where it's not as simple as writing up an offer and sending it in for them.
Hmm.
So we are providing a lot more and bringing a lot more to the table, and,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to, um, be working with a buyer's agent in this market and having that conversation about co-brokes,
Hmm.
just so same thing, we're all on an equal playing field. Um, that's
What's
one
a
thing
what's
that's
what's
important.
a co-broke, Brad? The public wants to know.
Yeah. Co-broke is a certain percentage of a commission
Yeah.
that's offered out to a buyer's agent to, cooperate together. So, if I've got a listing and Chris comes with a buyer, there is going to be a certain, amount that's decided by the seller
Mhm.
that they're allocating for a buyer's agent. So that's how, you would get paid.
I agree. We'll work it all out. I went to
Yeah,
did you go to the Women's Council of Realtors event yesterday?
I didn't actually.
It was really, really good. Sometimes we don't go to these events because we think it's not for me, it's for newer agents. But I actually
Mhm,
got a lot out of it. I learned some things from some very dynamic long-term real estate agents who is doing as much as 34 million. I think Jen Ball was from Hunt, $34 million agent. Kathy Cooley from Howard Hanna was there. She's up there. I mean, and sometimes we just learn about the strategies, and not only that, we learn about the long game. Uh,
Mhm.
you and I, even though I've been in the business 11 years, you've been in the business what, 8 years, right?
Yeah, 7 years, yep.
So, we're veterans, but I say the longer you stay in this industry, the more you learn. So it's great to listen to someone who's been in the industry double the time I have and how they're handling.
Mm,
But they came up with some really, really good points. And one of the things that came out was that talking about the co-brokes and how it's handled is that for agents who know their stuff and they're confident and they're well versed in this business, it's not a problem. It's only an issue
mhm,
for those people who aren't and they don't know how to
right,
communicate it. So maybe newer agents, and that's going to be up to guys like you and I to be coaches and mentors to some of the younger agents and say, "Hey, this is how you're going to communicate this piece," because we have to show our value as agents more than ever now, right?
absolutely,
Right? More
yeah,
than ever. I mean, we have to sell it. I mean, I always say, if I go into Macy's and I see suits on the rack for 200 and other suits on the rack for 850, I want to know what the difference is, right?
mhm,
So it's the same
absolutely,
thing in our business is that people just want to know what they're paying for. And if there was a time we could just accept those commissions because we kind of took them for granted. You
mhm,
can't take them for granted anymore. We kind of have to work harder and do everything, So
that's right.
do that before. Let's do it now. Hey, this has been amazing. I hope you took something away from this, Brad.
I did, yeah, it was great to connect.
100%. Thanks for coming on with me. If any of you out there have any questions for Brad or I, um, let me know. I'm also a licensed associate broker, as you know, but Brad is well versed in this business and he's passionate and he cares and he's not just doing it for the commission. I could tell that by his Facebook posts all the time, whether you're on the public post or whether you're in the real estate private groups, you always make some really, really good points. Sometimes I think you're being a smart ass.
You gotta have fun with it too, you know?
I know, right?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Oh, I know. You can't. You can't. It's always a good time. But all right, man, listen, go to work. I know you got some deals to do, and I'll see you on the other side. All right.
Absolutely, thank you again for the opportunity.
Take care. Thanks, everybody.